Welcome to National Pension Partners, where retirement planning meets peace of mind. Today, we're diving into the 412(e)(3 plan, also known as a fully insured pension plan. This isn't just any retirement plan. It's the gold standard for stability and guaranteed benefits. How does it work? Simple. It's funded exclusively by life insurance and annuity contracts. This means no market risks, no actuarial assumptions, just ironclad guarantees. Think of it like this. You're a small business owner who hates surprises. The 412(e)(3 plan gives you predictable, stable contributions every year. Your future benefits are backed by insurance contracts, so you know exactly what you're getting. No guesswork, no headaches. But there's more. These plans are designed to maximize your contributions and offer significant tax advantages. And with National Pension Partners, you're not just getting a plan, you're getting a team of experts, attorneys, CPAs, actuaries, all dedicated to making your retirement as secure as possible. We provide personalized consulting, ensuring that your plan is tailored to your specific needs. Best part? Initial consultations and proposals are absolutely free. $0, zero commitment. So if you want a retirement plan that's as reliable as your morning coffee, head over to nationalpensions.com. With the 412(e)(3 plan, your future is in safe hands. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling. Perfect for small business owners who like their finances as predictable as Monday mornings. Stable contributions, ironclad guarantees, and serious tax advantages. It's the trifecta of financial security. And with National Pension Partners, you get a team of brainiacs, attorneys, CPAs, actuaries, ensuring your retirement is as secure as Fort Knox. Oh, did we mention the free consultations? That's right. You get a personalized expert proposal with $0 down. So, if you want a retirement plan that's as reliable as your morning coffee, head over to nationalpensions.com. Because when it comes to your future, boring is the new exciting. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling. For more details, check out National Pension Partners at nationalpensions.com. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling.
Don't know how it is in California where Rick is, or in Canada where Sasha is, but here in North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina to be specific, there was some serious rain last night and all along those lines. The good news about that is that it's going to give us some more fall-like temperature and all in that kind of space, because I think the high today is only supposed to be up to 81, and there'll be lows like around 60 degrees. And Tuesday through Friday, it looks like the temperatures will be in the 70s, with even some lows in the 50s or high 50s and low 60s. So that definitely seems like some pleasant weather to me. Maybe even some fall-like weather, because I don't see a high of 82 until we get till Saturday. So it definitely looks like some more pleasant weather than that heat wave we were in the middle of earlier and all along those lines. But before we get to some other news, I'm going to see what we've got going on in the world, and then I'll bring our panelists up here and see what they've got to say and how the weather is treating them. Israel's labor strike over hostages is called off after a court order. So Israel protests demanded a Gaza deal after 6 hostages were killed. And apparently thousands attended the funeral of murdered hostage Hersh Goldberg, Poland. So that is something else that was going on in the Middle East. And the far-right success in German votes piles new pressure on the Scholz government. So the AfD leaders demand inclusion in the state coalition talks after election success. So that's something else that we're seeing in the news as well. And Russia strikes hits multiple cities in Ukraine as children are returning to school. So Ukraine children return to school as Russia launches drones and ballistic missiles during this time of them coming back to school. And it looks like their barrage targeting Kiev, Ukraine, destroyed a couple of destroyed at least one school and maybe even a couple of others as well. But definitely, that is some very barbaric acts of be attacking folks during the time that they're going to school and all along those lines. And an Australian child care worker is guilty of abusing dozens of girls. So in Australia, former child care worker pleads guilty to 307 child sexual abuse charges. So one of Australia's most prolific pedophiles is pleaded guilty to over 300 offenses and all along those lines. A helicopter crash near a volcano in Russia's far east kills at least 17. And it looks like actually one of the other stories is saying that Russia officials recovered the bodies of all 22 people killed in a helicopter crash in the Far East. So it looks like that number is actually closer to 22. And Biden and Harris are to meet with the U.S. hostage deal negotiating team as massive protests are erupting and all along those lines. And Biden says Netanyahu is not doing enough to secure a hostage deal. And U.S. plans to present a take it or leave it Israel-Gaza ceasefire deal soon. So definitely that's something else we're seeing as folks are trying to come to a ceasefire and all along those lines. And a Russian spy, Belugi Holodomor, is found dead in Norway. So that is something else going on as well. So he was apparently found dead off of the coast of Norway. And Ukraine carries out one of its biggest ever drone attacks on Russia. So Ukraine launches a massive drone attack on the Russian energy infrastructure. So definitely that's something else going on as well. And a French man is accused of letting dozens of men rape his drugged wife. So that's something else we're seeing in the news as well. And Musk Starlink defies orders to block X in Brazil. So Brazilians using a VPN on Elon Musk X face daily fines greater than their annual wage. And Starlink tells Brazilian regulators it will not comply with the X suspension. So definitely this is something going on in that tech war as well. And the father of an Israeli American hostage pleads for deal with Satan before Biden and Harris enter the Situation Room. So, father of the Israeli American hostage says negotiating with Hamas is dealing with Satan. So that's something that else is going on in that space as well. Let me get to some of the U.S. news, and then I'll bring some of my fellow panelists up and see what they've got to say about a number of things that were going on in the world. Definitely, Tom Cotton is doubling down on Trump support amid the Arlington controversy. So definitely there's a lot of controversy surrounding the Arlington Cemetery visit as to whether that was a political ad or whether that was something that he was invited to do and all along those lines. So there's definitely some pushback and all along those lines. But Harris and Walz's campaign is readying for a Labor Day blitz, and according to the union votes alongside Biden. So definitely no longer the candidate. Biden is reemerging as a top surrogate for Harris' campaign. And it looks like Vice President Kamala Harris will be making Labor Day stop in Detroit. So that's something else that we're seeing as well. But definitely a lot of things going on in that way. And the power cut off to 140 homes in Rancho Palos Verdes because of a landslide danger. So definitely that's something else we're seeing as well as SoCal Edison turns off power to an additional block of homes in Rancho Palos Verdes. So definitely looks like there could be a landslide crisis in that area where Rick calls home and all along those lines, or at least in that general area. And Titanic research dive reveals the discovery, decay, and new photos. It looks like striking images reveal depths of the Titanic's slow decay, and it looks like railings on the ship's iconic bow have broken off and fallen to the sea floor. So definitely it looks like folks are still investigating that tragedy of many decades ago and all along those lines. And Trump says he wants to make IVF treatments paid for by government or insurance companies if elected. So definitely in an appearance on CBS's Face the Nation, it looks like Healy evaded questions about possibly being Harris's AG pick, so Attorney General pick, and all along those lines. So definitely looks like Lindsey Graham is pouring cold water on Donald Trump's new campaign policy as well. And it looks like Tom Cotton and Lindsey Graham are revealing a Republican split over Trump's IVF proposal. So definitely we're going to see how folks have to react to that as well. And a car kills two after plowing into a Minnesota restaurant's patio. And it looks like the driver was arrested for a criminal vehicular, I guess, is manslaughter and all along those lines. And Waltz makes an appearance at the Minnesota State Fair as the VP nominee. So it looks like pork chops and politics. Tim Waltz gets a Minnesota homecoming at that particular area's state fair. As a matter of fact, I think the North Carolina State Fair should be coming up soon as well. And who knows, maybe this year I'll actually make it over there. I think it's been a couple of years, maybe even a few years since the last time I made it over to one of those, but could be something fun to do. And the Klamath River flows free after the last dams come down, leaving the land to tribes and all along those lines. So, as removal of dams frees the Klamath River, California tribes see hopes of saving salmon. So, definitely that could be something going on as with the dam removed, salmon will have the run of a western river. So, if you're into your salmon, this could be good for you and all along those lines. And the community mourns a UW Whitewater gymnast shot and killed near the campus. So, man arrested in a fatal shooting of a winning college gymnast in Wisconsin, Carrie Welsh, 21, who had won national titles, was fatally shot near the Wisconsin campus and all along those lines. And Trump suggests he may back out of a September 10th ABC debate. So definitely, it looks like Kamala Harris is preparing for the debate and is doing some practice and everything. So definitely looks like from shoe lifts to avoiding a Tulsi Gabbard moment, there are folks that are investigating the different ways that Trump and Harris are preparing for the debate, which is supposed to be a week from tomorrow. So definitely we'll see how this goes and everything else. And the fraternity brothers are balking at a $515,000 party for defending the flag. So definitely looks like a lot of folks are thinking about that as well. And Oregon reverses its course and recriminalizes possession of hard drugs, including fentanyl. So hard drugs illegal again in Oregon as a first in nation experiment ends. So it looks like that whole notion of decriminalization in Oregon has been changed and all along those lines. And federal workers around the nation's capital are worrying over Trump's plans to send some of them elsewhere. Because we do know that one of Trump's plans is to possibly end some of the federal jobs, and even Nick and others have talked about that as well. And RFK Jr. fought to get on North Carolina ballots. Now he's suing to get off of them. So it looks like RFK Jr. can't get off the ballot in North Carolina and can't get back on it in North Carolina, in New York. So definitely looks like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is suing to get his name removed from North Carolina's ballots. And the reparation bills dies on the final day of California's legislative sessions despite urgent protests. So it looks like California slavery reparation bills unraveled over a Gavin Newsom amendment, and protests erupted at the California state capitol because of the stalled reparation proposals. So definitely lots going on in the nation and all along those lines. I got Kim with me, and she's over there in Greece, and I see we've got her visiting with us, as well as Sasha Starr and Rick Rosner. And like I said, I hope the weather is good where y'all are at, because we were
Hi,
at the rain. How you doing, Kim?
I'm doing great. I'm here with Alma. We just finished doing the monasteries in Metatora. There's Alma. And we've been touring Greece, and everything's beautiful here. I will say, when I was staying with my family, they were all watching the presidential campaigns. That's what they watch a lot of here in the news, as well as they watch Good World News. But yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous here. Probably some of the most beautiful sights I've ever seen in my life, but I always say that about everywhere. Um, but the monasteries, they're built in the stones that grow straight to the sky. And so it's a lot of hiking, a lot of walking, and a lot of drinking of water. But the weather's good here if you want to know about the weather. But I think politically, everything's good here. You know, Greece had the problem where they filed bankruptcy. They really work hard at paying that off. They take ownership of what happened, and they're paying it off. They're paying off their debt. Um, Tourism helps them do that. They have a high tax on tourism, but the expenses here are not very bad. I would highly recommend coming here. We went to some interesting islands yesterday, just out of the nowhere. We decided somebody had recommended them, so we did that. But the economy is, to me, thriving here. People are working hard to keep it that way. It's very nice. It's a beautiful place to come and just relax and enjoy, or get out and have a lot of fun like we're doing. A lot of dancing here, like big group dancing. We went dancing the other night, a big family festival, and they, like, one song lasts an hour, so I can see how they stay so skinny here. Um, but yeah, but it sounds like a lot's going on there. So
Yeah,
Kennedy
lots going
tried.
on. I was just wondering, have you seen any signs? Because one of the stories that I saw, and Dad many years ago was stationed in Turkey, so I know Greece and Turkey have been at each other for a long time. And one of the articles I saw said that Greece has a lot of tanks because they have apparently one of the largest and most capable tank fleets in Europe and everything, and have several advanced models. So as you were traveling, I was just wondering if you have seen any of these tanks, because apparently they have a significant armed forces driven by that long-standing tension with Turkey and everything.
No, no, absolutely not. I've not actually seen any military, and we've been past a few military bases, the Air Force and the Navy, when we were in Litouro. And actually, our car broke down there. That was kind of funny. But no, what I have seen that it just impresses me more than anything is the alternative energy that they invest here. They all use alternative energy. They all have solar panel, one or two on their house, so you don't need 100 of them. And they all have a water tank on top of their house for in the summertime, and the water tank collects heat and heats the water for the house. They use very little, heavy electricity around here because everything is done through the solar. We'll be driving down and you'll see solar farms, which probably help with the communities. Very few windmills, but today's brought the windiest I've seen it. But I'm so impressed. Every home has a solar panel, one big solar panel on the roof, every house. And I think that's brilliant because you're not using up gas, you're not using up for unnecessary things. And so they run a lot of their electricity off of that. Again, heat their water with a tank that sits on top of the roof and collects the heat. And they, cook with gas, but very little gas. I mean, I'm just, it's impressive to me that we think we're ahead of everyone, and I think we're 20,000 years behind these people because they got it, and they're doing it the way I said it needs to be done. You don't need $80,000 worth of solar panels on your roof to run your house. They have one, some have two, but most of them have one. And I think that's very impressive. I mean, the guy that I worked with that had a patent in solar energy. He, showed that you only needed one or two. What you need is the good collectors and the batteries, the storage. And so you daisy chain your storage batteries. But
That
I
makes a
think
lot
they're
of sense.
20,000 years ahead of us when it comes to being kind to people, when they're not, being nasty and rude during political campaigns. Everyone unites here and works together to, help. I'm sure you have your contentions, but it's absolutely gorgeous. I'm here at St. Nicholas. I was hoping Nick was going to be on today. We
Yeah,
came to the St. Nicholas Monastery, which was, about 1,000 steps going
yeah,
up to
yeah,
it. But
he's on and everything. He's been here the whole time and everything. But one of the articles that
I'm
I've
on.
seen,
I'm in the background.
yeah, I don't know the
hi,
notes.
so I went to St. Nicholas. It was the last one today. We went to the big, great Metatora Cathedral and Monastery. But you got to see this. Like, I'll send pictures. I've never seen anything like it. Um, Driving in last night, they have lights that go up on these, and they look like big baked potatoes because they have holes in them. So I'm like, oh my God, we're driving into a town with big baked potatoes looking down at you. But yeah, I'm here at St. Nicholas. It's interesting. They just rang the bell that it was time to go. Everything closes at 5. Um, Interesting place. Everything kind of closes late in the afternoon, and everyone takes a long siesta, very long, and then about 8 o'clock, they all start coming out to go into the town squares and eat dinner. By 10 o'clock, everyone is out eating dinner. And, 11 o'clock, you hear the music crank up. And this isn't the weekend, this is every night. This is their lifestyle every day and every night. They dance until, whenever in the morning when the music decides to stop. And they get up and do it all over again. But they all take long siestas in the middle of the afternoon, and I think it's fabulous. Fabulous healthy lifestyle. Fabulous. I made a selfie monster out of Alma. Now she takes selfies everywhere she goes. But when you just learning from other countries the way I've been learning, and getting out and getting exposure, I'm so impressed with this country. They all use little tiny half electric cars. Almost every car on the road is half electric, which is very impressive. And like we have one, a little tiny half electric car, and pretty much drove most of Greece on a tank of gas. So, I think we need to learn from other countries. Think we need to learn from their education system, because the kids are mindful and respectful and good. They're not all in church schools. But I think we could learn a lot if we go to other countries and take in what they're doing, especially with this alternative energy. I am done with gas. After being here, I am done with gas. What they're doing here is fabulous.
Just out of curiosity, because one of the articles I saw from an Irish paper was talking about how locals there in Greece are seeing a less spending from some of the tourists. I was wondering if you were seeing that. You said that while the numbers have been skyrocketing for tourists, the amount that the visitors have been spending hasn't been as much, because I think that they said the visitor influx shot up 21.3% in May, and overall tourism revenue increased by 6.8%. But they were saying that the Bank of Greece were painting a worrisome picture, because apparently the tourists have cut their spending on average by 12.2%. In 2023, international jet setters forked out about 570 pounds per trip, which is a dip of 3.5% compared to the previous year and everything. So I was just wondering if you were seeing people that were spending money, or if this was a worrisome thing that you weren't seeing people spend as much money.
So different than our beaches. Along the beaches is lined restaurants all the way down on the beach itself. I didn't see any slowdown of spending at all. Every chair was taken, every just everything. I did not see anything slow down spending wise. No, it's been crowded on the weekends. It's crowded on the weekdays. It's the evenings, and I think if anyone comes here and they've never been here before, they don't have family to explain things to them, the evenings is when people go out. If you go out in the middle of the afternoon, you're going to see the town closed. You go, oh my God, this economy is gone. That's what I did. I went home the first day, and I'm like, oh my God, the economy's gone. Oh my God, what happened? And they're like, no, Kim, this is the way we live. Wait in the evening, and sure enough, the money flows in the evening. So does the liquor. So no, I've been very impressed with that, but they do charge a lot of money for the tourist taxes. Restaurant taxes are very high, but your dinner's still not very expensive. I had a salad and a pasta dish last night. I think I paid $4 for it, and most of that was tax. So still, it's a good place to come. The people are very friendly. Driving is easy. I learned how to drive in one night. Somebody took me out and taught me how to drive. So. But you guys look great. I miss y'all. Everybody looks good. I'm kind of not missing the campaign. I promise you that. So, but when I turn on the TV here, that's all you see.
Right.
Yeah. Today's only half of a news day in the U.S. because it's Labor Day and the polls are no new polls. The markets are shut down. But internationally, yesterday, 280,000 protesters, which is 3% of the population, hit the streets of Israel to protest Netanyahu. That's
Wow.
3%. If that would be like 10 million Americans hitting the streets of
That's
America.
That's a lot of people. What is it about? Is it to stop the war, to cease the fight? What is it about?
Because 6 hostages were slaughtered by Hamas, and Israelis rightfully believe that Netanyahu's dragging his feet on making any kind of ceasefire agreement that could have gotten some of those hostages freed. In the past 2 weeks, 12 hostages, I believe, have been murdered or found dead, which is more than 10% of the remaining hostages.
Wow, I am so that's horrible. That's horrible. I thought that they were releasing hostages the last time I
They
saw
rescued
everything.
one in the last week or so, but many more dead.
Yeah.
What's
And
been the
people-
turnaround for killing the hostages? Why have they decided to do that all of a sudden? Because they weren't doing it in the beginning. In the beginning, they held on to the hostages.
I don't know, Sasha.
In my opinion, the people are protesting against Netanyahu. However, I don't see what different he could have done regarding the hostages, because in all latest peace negotiations, it was Netanyahu and Israel who would agree for a ceasefire and for releasing hostages and so on. And it was Hamas who refused it, and more than once. So what do they want exactly from Netanyahu is unclear to me. I think what they really should want from Netanyahu is to finish this war, decisively destroying Hamas. That's not happening. So either he has to admit that Israel is not in a position, it cannot militarily destroy Hamas, and just get on with life and just forget about Hamas and all that stuff. Either you can do it and then go and do it, or you cannot do it, admit it, and just be with it. So I really don't understand that situation.
Yeah, Sasha,
War is war. I don't know why we're,
No,
when
but-
somebody goes to war, I don't know why they just don't,
But speaking of
do
war,
their
is
all.
war. Hey, Sasha and
And
Kim,
the
speaking of
war's
war, is war, and everything along those lines. Does anybody not follow? And this is a question for Sasha, because you were in the military. I was not in the military and everything. Does anybody follow the Geneva Convention and everything? Because I thought one of the rules of the Geneva Convention was you are not supposed to attack certain things, be that hospitals or schools. And when I heard, as you heard me say, and I was being very sincere when I said that I find it horrific that you're going to attack a school when people are going to school, which is what they did in Ukraine and everything. Russia attacked literally schools and everything. So does anybody not follow the Geneva Convention? Because that's one of the things with doing that, that there were certain things that even if you're in the middle of a war, you're not supposed to attack, and schools and hospitals were among those.
Geneva Convention is good for countries like Switzerland, Austria, maybe France, Spain, Greece, but it's nothing for countries like Russia. They have their own rules, and they don't obey any conventions whatsoever. So this is just a waste of time. It's the same thing that you will preach to a crocodile, that it's not nice to bite humans, and you shouldn't do it, and so on. That's all waste of time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, let's see.
Neither Hamas nor Israel are following the Geneva Convention.
Right.
So Hamas uses places like schools and hospitals to hide its troops and the hostages, and then Israel blows up hospitals and schools, because that's
Yes,
where
it's right. Because if there are terrorists right in that hospital, and they have to be destroyed, and the only way to destroy them without losing thousands of lives of Israeli soldiers is to destroy that hospital or whatever school it is, or so on. And I have the opinion that they should have, instead of waiting, they should have, when attack happened on October 7th, on October 8th, go all in, destroy everything, and that's it. There will be no protests and so on, because all protesters would be dead by that time. That's all what had to be done. Israel was waiting for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, preparing and consulting, and US and all this stuff.
This month there will be 3 sets of 3-day pauses in the fighting, so that people can go in and vaccinate 2/3 kids in Gaza against polio, because they've had a case of polio there. So I think 1/3 of Gaza at a time, they will pause the fighting for vaccination for 3 days.
Great news. Great. Bravo. Great.
Hold on. So I guess that 2/3 of Hamas fighters have been killed so far. 41,000 Gazans have been killed. They started with 30,000 Hamas fighters. I'm guessing they're under 10,000. I don't know if anybody has any idea. So, I mean,
pick up 20,000 Palestinians, give them weapons, and here is another 30,000 Hamas fighters. What's the difference between Hamas fighters and Palestinians? Hamas fighters are Palestinians who have weapons, and Palestinians are Hamas without weapons.
Without weapons. I know this story.
But not
let me
everybody
ask
in
you
Palestine
this.
is a member of Hamas. I'm not going that far.
But I want to propose something. Why don't these leaders today, if they want to rule the world, why don't they do what the Greek gods did, or what they did back in the Roman days, where the leaders get in the ring and they battle it out and fight it out? Not, have all my people kill each other for me. Why don't they get
now hold on a second.
I think that would be better.
The only time they've done that was on Star Trek, when Captain Kirk battled a giant lizard.
No, but hold on a second. That's not altogether true. Let's be very clear, Kim. There were gladiators that were fighting, and a lot of those gladiators were slaves and were members, not necessarily of the ruling class. So I would not say that it was all the leaders that fought and everything. Though a lot of times that were very much repressed, that were fighting for the Greek system and everything.
True, but the kings would slaughter each other for the kingdom. I mean, and back in the day, they would get into it and fight too. I just think that the leaders need to spill a little blood before they ask of us. That's all. But the world has changed.
So in other words, what you propose, that Hamas leader should have challenged Netanyahu on a fight instead of attacking Israel, right? Okay, I could not agree with you more.
And instead of fighting, Sasha, I'm going to propose one more better. They should have to play chess against each other.
That's even better.
That's how you win a country. You don't spill blood. You play chess. I think that's.
But I don't think that Palestinians would have a great chance in chess against Israelis. You know why? Because when there was Olympiad in the 39, the Palestinian team was playing in the chess World Olympiad in Argentina in 1939, and of 5 players of Palestinian team, all 5 were Jews. There was no one Palestinian. So
wow. So you're right. They probably, yes, Rick.
You don't need chess.
I don't.
What Sasha says is, I partially agree with, that you can recruit more fighters out of the general population of Gaza, but that's not going to change whether there are 5,000 Hamas fighters left alive or 2,000. Or what needs to happen is an occupation of Gaza. Ideally, not solely by Israelis, but by some kind of multi-country force but they've messed that up in the past. The Gaza,
Yeah.
the rest of the world would rather leave Gaza to, they'll throw money sometimes at Gaza, but they leave it to its own devices.
Yeah, when you
And
put
they've had
money
crap
into
government for their entire existence. As
all you do is prolong the inevitable when you throw money at a war like that. A little here, a little there. You're only prolonging the pain and suffering of the war. Just like, anywhere else. I think, but I do think that there's got to be somebody who will walk in and make everybody do some peace talks. But I'm interested in the protest that just happened, the 280,000.
I want to tell you something
I'm
that,
gonna watch
interestingly enough, all these terrorists in Gaza, Middle East overall, and Russian military in Ukraine, they are all using only one means of communications between themselves, and that is a telegram. They don't use anything else.
That's
Telegram,
brilliant, actually.
it's all
Because you
there
can't
is.
capture Telegram. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
The other thing, when I worked with the military in NCS4, when we were looking at more secure ways, you know what they were going back to? You're not going to believe this. They wanted to use drones as pigeons, back in the day,
Oh, yeah.
and they would send messages between the troops out in the field with drones. And the idea is with the drones, though, is if it got in the wrong hands, it would destroy itself, like Mission Impossible. So, but yeah, that's what we were looking at, is utilizing drones in the fields. So people couldn't capture the telephone messages or the telegraph or anything. So yeah, that's brilliant. I'm gonna have to go. I love you guys.
Kim, just really quickly, the protest that was done in Israel, some people might find is a good thing, some people may not, but it was actually organized by Israel's largest trade union. So it was organized by something called Hestetut and everything. So it came after tens of thousands of people rallied in Israel on September 1st, outraged by that killing of 6 Israeli hostages, but definitely looked like it was organized by the unions of that area. So there is a strong union in Israel, just like there are strong unions.
But did it accomplish anything?
No.
Well, I mean, apparently not.
But I haven't watched it.
I mean, right now there's a possibility of a deal. If there's a deal, then they can say that it accomplished something. But it'll be interesting because the protests, some of the protests were planned for outside of Netanyahu's house in Caesarea, and definitely it's a lot of other people that are hoping to take it to the leader and everything. So apparently that's where the protests are and everything. So I mean, it's always an interesting thing as to whether protests are effective or not. But apparently
they're going to be so effective. Benjamin Netanyahu is sitting there in his house, and he's got a particular plan for what he's going to do. And then he goes, "Oh, look, there's a bunch of dickheads out the front protesting. You know what? I'm going to change government policy. I'm going to change everything I'm going to do. There's a bunch of people out there protesting."
That's right. I mean, he's not going to do anything.
But I mean,
I really need somebody. Hey, you're looking good, Kim. I really need somebody to explain to me though the whole polio vaccine thing. Because maybe I'm not the brightest spark in the Christmas tree. Maybe I'm not the brightest spark in the Christmas tree, but you were going to pause the war, vaccinate the kids, and then blow them up afterwards. Is that what? What are we doing? Like, what is this?
Yeah, I agree with you. And everything.
Yeah. It's okay if you die from a bomb, but let's just make sure that you don't have polio.
Well, I mean, polio. I mean, I guess polio spreads they had one case, and I feel like if it gets loose in Gaza, you'll have hundreds, maybe thousands of cases.
Yeah, see, Shaquille, in a case that the kid will not be blown by a bomb, then he may die from the tuberculosis or whatever else is there, polio, and so on. So, but to me, it's like many years ago, I had one lawyer. He was so a funny guy, and he had the theory of two bullet syndrome. Let's see, if you have one bullet hit your brain and another on your heart, even if you are able to save your brain by fantastic doctors and miracles and so on, but the other one that hit your heart, it will make you die anyway, and vice versa. So this is a two-bullet syndrome. When you have a kid, so either he will be blown by a bomb, but not everyone will be blown by a bomb. But by polio, everyone or most of them will perish. So it's, I don't know, okay, it's a humanistic business, and okay, they want to do it, fine.
Why? Look, I'm not trying to advocate for war, but the idea that you want to vaccinate the population, okay, fine. Why did you need to have a ceasefire to do that? Why not just give Hamas, they're such a loving group towards their own people, apparently. Why don't you just give them the vaccines and let them and the Palestinian doctors...
Shaquille, wouldn't it be a wonderful idea if in early May of 1945 to have vaccinations for Germans available, let's see, on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of May 1945, just 5 days before capitulation, all of them would be vaccinated. So yeah, okay, we capitulate, but we are vaccinated. That's a great deal.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I mean, mind you, weren't they using? Were they all using Percocet or something? The Germans at that time, the whole population was high as a kite on methamphetamine.
Yeah, the Germans developed steroids. They developed speed for their troops. The Germans didn't, they didn't care about. It was total war for the Germans. They sacrificed everybody, and they didn't care what the drugs did to the troops.
Well, speaking of that, and speaking of drugs, and Rick, along those same lines, what is your take on what's going on? Because I mentioned that story earlier and everything in Oregon and all along those lines, because apparently they had this great experiment about trying to decriminalize drugs, and now they have decided that experiment wasn't worth it, so they are now recriminalized fentanyl and some of the other hard drugs that are out there. So I just wondering what, if anything, you had.
I'm not informed enough to have an opinion.
Fair enough and everything. I'm just wondering because, in that same general air and everything. Hey, Shaquille, one of the things you brought up coming back to the wars and everything, but I know that a lot of times protests, whether it is local or whether it is national or international, they will target the core of the citizenry, which of course is the hospitals, the businesses, the banks, and the airports. I mean, there are some people, if you follow conspiracy theories, that theorize that that's what happened on 9/11. If you look at what was attacked in terms of the 9/11 attacks and everything. But I just wanted, because apparently that's what the strike was doing. They were targeting the idea of disrupting major sectors of the economy, hoping that this would put some pressure on that value and everything. Because I think that's what they were hoping to do, just like they hope to do that.
But that doesn't do anything. All it does is it pisses people off. That's all it does. It's like these Just Stop Oil protesters, right? You're driving along trying to get to work, and then all of a sudden you're stuck in traffic. What's going on? And there's some dickhead in the middle of the road, and you're going to go, wow, Just Stop Oil. I never thought of that. Well, what is this I need to pay attention to? Climate change. Oh, I've never heard of climate change. But if it wasn't for that guy stuck in the middle of the road, I'd have never heard of this. I mean, come on. It doesn't achieve anything. It just pisses people off. And they go in and they destroy artwork and this and that. It doesn't do anything, right? And the George Floyd protests that happened all over the world, okay? George Floyd should never have been killed by the police. Okay, what happened there was terrible. But don't tell me that going around and looting Gucci stores and Versace stores in New York City and around the world, somehow the government all went, well, look, what we should do now is we should change things. No, all they did in that particular case, all they did was they defunded police departments, put pressure on police departments, and what happened? Crime rates went up. You achieved very much? No. This was just a handful of people that just wanted to do what they wanted to do. Okay, and it's the same thing with most of these protests. You go and speak to the protesters. What are you arguing about? What is it that you want? We want them to do this. How do you want them to do it? I don't know. They should just do it. Okay.
So, but
hold on. Let's talk about hold on. There was a general strike. Let's talk about the strike. Hold on.
But hold on, both of you. Killed. Are you saying that protests are never effective? Because the people that did the sit-ins in the 60s would argue that that is not the case. The folks that literally sat in on the Allen building at Duke University that get certain concessions by the university would argue that that is not the case. So are you saying that protests are never effective, or are you saying that they can have an effect?
I'm not saying that they're never effective, but what I'm saying is that if you're doing a protest and it hasn't been particularly effective, ratcheting it up by inconveniencing all of society is not going to work. Now, look, the situation in Israel might be a little bit different. The people there may feel like they've got limited options, okay? But, if you're going to try and take over a major highway and disrupt the flow of traffic, which means that ambulances can't get through, which means that, the people, that this can affect people's lives when they can't, they can't travel to the places that they need to go. When you do that, you only ever incense the population against you. It's very, very rare that those sorts of protests are going to result in people being happy about it and going, yeah, okay. You don't endear your cause to the people by behaving that way.
What Dr. King was doing. Dr. King protested by
to talk about Israel
and disrupting a lot of traffic in Mississippi
Mark,
and everything.
Mark, again, I'm not saying that this can never work, okay? Martin Luther King and the civil rights issues of the 60s and earlier decades, yeah, of course that. But I wouldn't even put that down as just a protest, okay? But of course that's a different situation. But I think that today people are protesting all the time to the point that it doesn't mean anything anymore. It doesn't mean it. If you look out your window and there's a protest every day, what are you supposed to do? As a citizen, you're supposed to look like, oh yeah, I'm going to jump on that. I'm going to jump on this. I'm going to be. No, you're not going to do that. You're just going to go, whatever. What are they arguing about now? Okay, I don't think it has the same potency that it once did. Sorry, Rick.
Let's talk specifically about Israel. Yesterday, they had a giant protest across the country. 3% of the country was in the streets. Today, they called a general labor strike across the country. And then the court said, nah, it's illegal. Shut it down by 2:30. Everybody go home. And I haven't seen reporting, but it seems like people just complied with the court ruling. I'm sure some people didn't, but it wasn't like the protesters were, frivolous. They seemed to comply and seemed to have, some specific ideas about what they want.
You got let's say 3% of the population that wants something. What about the rest?
3% turned out.
Okay, 3% turned. Okay, I'm not going to split hairs. 3% of people turned out. Okay, that doesn't necessarily mean that more than 50% of the people agree that Benjamin Netanyahu and the government should or shouldn't do certain things. I mean, I don't know what was the percentage of people that protested Donald Trump's election in 2016 and wanted the system changed, okay, and wanted things to change to prevent him from becoming the president. Now, should the United States change its entire system because of, a huge percentage of the population? Probably, I would dare suggest more than 3% of the population that expressed deep dissatisfaction. Well, what are you going to do? So I don't know what the system is in Israel. I don't know how this conflict with Israel and Palestine ends. I have no idea. I'm not an expert in that area. I don't like seeing innocent Palestinians being killed. But realistically, as I've said before, the only way I can see this ending is if the powerful Western countries and the powerful Middle Eastern countries get together and decide what they're going to do. Because there's no way it's going to be decided between Israel and Palestine.
Yeah. So Netanyahu has 36% approval. Not great, maybe not as low as you'd think, given everything. 69% of Israelis say that he shouldn't run again in the next election. With the protests in the U.S., when 1 million people hit the streets after Trump got elected, I don't think they were trying to change our electoral system or kick Trump out of office. I think they were giving notice that, Trump should be aware that he should maybe govern like less of a dick.
Rick, they were asking for it to be changed. I mean, look, California and a number of other states have decided to form an alliance that agrees to give all the state electors to whoever wins the either the national or the statewide popular vote. Now, fair enough, but under your 10th Amendment, it's a state's issue. But this is not what was supposed to happen. You don't have a popular vote electoral system. So, there's all sorts of things. Yeah, the celebrities came out saying that the electors should simply not give their votes to Trump. And as per Netanyahu's numbers, look, I don't know. I don't pay an awful lot of attention to Israeli politics. But 36% approval and 70% of people not wanting to run again, well, that's exactly what Biden's numbers were.
And
in fact, that's better than what Biden's numbers were.
Both candidates, really.
Well, no, it's not really. It's not really. What happened was...
No, if you look at the statistics...
Hang on. Coming into that debate, you go into that debate, right? And everybody was saying Biden is too old, etc. It wasn't really his age, it was his performance. That's what everybody was saying. After the debate, when Democrats could no longer lie to themselves, to Americans, and to the rest of the world that was watching this, okay, you couldn't say it was cheap votes or anything like that. Then all of a sudden they said, well, we should really get rid of both. Why should the Republicans get rid of Donald Trump? His popularity was fine within Republican circles. On a national level, it's a bit different, but he's doing fine as far as his popularity within Republicans. Sasha?
What do you say to those
Speaking
folks?
Speaking about Israeli protests and all other protests, let me remind you that the number one aim of any government in any country is a security of their own people. This is by far the most important thing, and when you compare that, and because sometimes it contradicts some other concepts like freedom of speech. What the greatest thing in the world of freedom of speech. It's fantastic, but it's distant second compared to the security of its citizen. If you have freedom of speech, but you don't have security, why do you need this freedom of speech? It's a fiction. There is no such thing. The security of your own people, it doesn't matter United States or Israel or Greece or Canada, it doesn't matter. The security of the people is by far the most important thing. So if 3% went on the streets of Israel, oh my God, 3%, well, 97% didn't show up on the streets of Israel, right? Netanyahu approval rating is only 36%. Now, if it would have been 38%, then there would be no protest. Oh, he has 38%. He's a great president. Oh, 36%. Out, let's go on the streets or so on. And in the meantime, you harm your own citizen because they cannot drive normally. They cannot attend the movies or wherever they want to go. So this protest should be dispersed, and whoever organizers are put in jail right away. Oh, freedom of speech. Put your freedom of speech to your...
Let's talk about more. Hold on. So the protesters did appear to comply. The court said you got to shut it down, so apparently they did. Now, as far as opinion polls in Israel, the war has pretty broad support across Israel. Israel wants their troops to go in and wipe out Hamas, but they also want a ceasefire, a lot of them, if it has a chance of rescuing some of the hostages who might still be alive. It might be 80 hostages still alive, 70 hostages still alive. You can want both. You can want Hamas to be obliterated, and you can want a ceasefire.
Yeah, I want to get married and have a girlfriend on the side, but neither of those two are going to be happy about it. I mean, come on. You can't sit there and say, okay, we're going to go in there and obliterate them and we're going to have a ceasefire. You can't do that.
Well, yeah, you can. I mean, because Israel has 300,000 troops. Hamas has 8,000 troops remaining. Like, if you can pause for 2 weeks, it's not going to appreciably improve Hamas's military situation.
Just really quickly, because I know we only got about 5 minutes to go. When it comes to like freedom with not so much freedom of the press, but allowing your voice to be heard and everything. Because I heard what you said, Sasha, about the security being the most important thing versus some of the other rights and everything. But how far does that go? Because one of the criticisms that we've heard lately about Trump, and to some degree Kamala Harris as well, has been what they've said and how much of that is factual and how much of that is to entice people. There's been this whole thing around the Arlington Cemetery, and whether that was a political ad or whether that was in him being invited and everything. And then there's been this conversation about him saying that if he's not elected, it could be a bloodbath and a number of other things. And then
it didn't say that. It didn't say that. Yeah, this is what I just don't understand about Democrats. I don't get it. Okay, why do you have to bullshit so much? I'm not directing this at you, Mark. Why does your media feel it necessary to bullshit so much? If you just put your ideas forward, okay, criticize and attack the other person's ideas, the other party's ideas. Why do you have to just twist things and make things up and then act stunned when a massive percentage of the world's population no longer trusts your media and no longer trusts what you're saying? He didn't say, if you don't elect me, it's going to be a bloodbath. He didn't say that at all. Okay? What he was talking about was the manufacturing industry, specifically the automotive manufacturing. And he was talking about the amount of jobs that were going overseas and how he was going to bring them back to the United States. And in the context of talking about that, he said, but if I don't win, it's going to be a bloodbath. He was talking about in relation to jobs within that industry. And he was talking to, automotive or factory workers at the time. I mean, it's just why people have to twist it all the time. As I said, it just fascinates me for people on the left to carry on like this and then genuinely believe with their college degrees that they are so smart, but they can't understand why people just don't believe them. This interview with Kamala Harris on CNN.
It was on both parties, and even Trump himself said
Mark, let me finish. Mark, in the interest of time, let me finish. We can go to Rick. And this interview that Kamala Harris did with Dana, Dana Bash from CNN. Okay, you have a look at her face. She's smiling. She's friendly. She's happy to be there. Okay, no tough questions. Nothing like that. Nothing like her behavior and her body language and her attitude towards J.D. Vance when she interviewed him. Okay? Now, what happened? Well, after that interview, dropped in the polls. After that interview, the international betting markets put Donald Trump back into the favourite. Not by much, but he's back as a favourite again. And what do Democrats do? Oh, I just don't understand why. We don't get. We're not biased. Yes, yeah, like Katie Collins goes on to Bill Maher's show. We're not biased. Both sides can watch it. No, bullshit. Now, this is the thing. It's this level of delusion. There's this inability for people on the left to look at people who aren't on the left and go, I can understand where you're coming from.
No, I said I can understand that, Rick. I'm going to let you close out and everything. But I also saw on Fox News a body language expert that actually severely criticized Kamala's body language, saying that it was not the way you just described it. It's very friendly.
Fox News is not left-wing media.
Because it was Fox.
Mark, Fox News is not left-wing media. I'm not talking about Fox. I'm talking about CNN. I'm talking about the propaganda arm of the Democrats, which is mainstream media. Rick and Sasha, if you guys want to respond.
I want to tell you that I was not impressed with her and Walz's interview at all. She did not project the power. She did not project any convictions. She was there doing basically a minimum, answering the questions. Her tone was, a middle-aged woman sitting there talking back and forth with the interviewer. that was definitely not a brilliant performance by far. And I think if she wants to really go on and to win it, she has to change her tone, she has to change her appearance, and the way she looked in that interview, she was rather weak,
But
unfortunately.
only one voter in 40 even watched the interview.
That's okay.
So we've got another she's got another opportunity 8 days from now when she debates Trump on ABC.
When the debate takes
But
place.
the people hear from other people. The people hear from other people, and I can't imagine that there's many people who, in their real lives, I'm talking about media people in real life, that would watch that interview. They'll say to their friends, "Oh man, that was such a fantastic interview. Like she, you know." I mean, look, Sasha, in his own words, hates Trump. He's not coming out there and saying, "Oh, that was an amazing interview," right? What's going to happen is she's going to bullshit herself into a loss. And I'll just say this: I actually believe that even the inner sanctum of the Democrats don't think that she's going to win. Okay, she wasn't a good candidate before. She had terrible numbers as the VP. I think that they've got her there because they're worried about the down ballot votes. That's what I think she's there for.
I disagree. If you look at the net approval, disapproval, I think the Democrats are, well, they're certainly more optimistic than when
Rick,
Biden was the candidate.
And like
Rick,
I said,
you could run anybody and have them be more optimistic. If the media treated Trump with the sort of deference with which they treat Democrats, Trump's approval would be through the roof.
That's subject to argument, because I've learned a new term in the past week, which is sane washing, which is Trump, you know, he traffics in nonsense, which, you know, is fine as hold on. Well, he says a bunch of goofy stuff, and he'll argue, Trump himself argues that he's not serious when he says a lot of this stuff, but he says so much of it that the media, you know, depending on which source you're looking, they don't know what to do with it. So often they try to put it in context, or they ignore it. And then libs looking at the media are like, well, he says all this crazy crap and you're not covering it enough.
But everybody does that. Look, Governor Walz goes around saying that he was a command sergeant major. No, he wasn't.
But he didn't retire.
No, he wasn't, Rick. He was not.
No, he served in that capacity, but you have to serve in that capacity for 6 years, and you have to finish coursework. So
you've got to finish the coursework, and you've got to be there for 2 years. So why say it then? And then he goes, "Well, I served in it. I wasn't actually, but I served." Like, come on.
Also, and this was sort of, I mean, who cares? He was in the military for 4 years past retirement. He was in the military for 20 years.
Yeah, but see what you're doing, Rick. So this is what I'm talking about, okay? When it's somebody on your side, you jump to his defense. When it's Donald Trump, there is no defense of Donald Trump. If Donald Trump says something that can be interpreted a couple of different ways, let's take it to mean the worst possible thing that it could have meant. Okay? Like, does anybody really think that he's genuinely going to shoot somebody in Madison Square Gardens or whatever it was that he said? You know, and like this whole thing about there's good people on both sides. This has been debunked so many times, and it should be something that's embarrassing for the Democrats. Joe Biden, to actually recently say that was the reason why he ran for president in the first place, was because of Charlottesville, when you can look at the footage and you know that that's not what Donald Trump said. I mean, it's a pretty constant theme of antagonistic behavior and twisting things to make Republicans look bad, not just Donald Trump, but Republicans look bad, and to make Democrats look good. And the big media would do that differently.
Look at what the average underinformed voter, an independent who doesn't pay much attention, what they think of Walz. They think, okay, here's a guy who was in the National Guard for a long time, and people are arguing about, but mostly they know that he was in the National Guard, if they know anything. And then what they know about Trump is, and they know Vance was in the Marines. So they know that, they each served. They know that Trump didn't serve. They maybe know that Trump got a bunch of deferrals. And then the little frickin' things that people are arguing about, whether he deserved to call himself a command sergeant major, that's a minority of voters who are already convinced one way or the other.
No, I don't think it is, Rick. The point that I'm making is that you have a media which is slanted. And I think you know this, right? You've got a media that is slanted one way or the other. Now, it's the same everywhere else. Australia's got media which is slanted towards the left. The UK has media which is slanted towards the left. I just think it's more pronounced in the United States. And I think that what's happening is that there's a lot of negative focus, not just on Donald Trump, other Republicans as well. There's a lot of negative focus on them. And when there's something the other way, there's not as much focus on it. Okay? There is sometimes, but have a look at George Santos and the treatment in the media on him. He absolutely deserved everything he got. And then have a look at Senator Hernandez from New Jersey.
Menendez.
He gets caught with.
I don't think he got soft pedaled.
Well,
He's a criminal.
No, well, I don't think that his media treatment was anywhere near as harsh as George Santos, and I would say that he committed a much more egregious offence.
No, I think he got. I haven't done statistics, but I mean, Menendez was clearly guilty. I saw a lot of stories about not just guilty, but stupid. The way they're kind of equivalent. And I think they got equivalent
really because we got to wrap up and everything.
I don't think it's equivalent. He's got gold bars in his house.
Yeah, no.
Who does that, by the way? Who takes gold bars and hides it in their
criminal idiot?
Criminal idiot. Because we got to wrap up and everything. I would just say that really quickly on the media bias. I would say that the media has bias on both sides. So I would say Fox is very biased to the right. I would say that there are media that is very biased.
Mark, again, that's not a question. That's not a question. You've got Fox. You've got Fox.
I mean, more biased more to the right.
Okay, you got Fox on the right, and then on the left you've got CNN, MSNBC, ABC.
I do not think ABC is that biased to the left.
Have you watched? Come on now.
I've watched the news and I've seen a number of the news reports and everything. So I'm not going that far to say that ABC is biased that far to the
ABC, the fair and balanced ABC. Yeah, okay.
And everything.
Yeah.
But wait a second. ABC is not the same as CNN and MSNBC because ABC does just a few hours of news a day. So it's like, where are you going to see ABC has a half hour national news broadcast.
Okay.
And I suppose minutes. The rest is ads.
I suppose that New York Times is not biased, and the Washington was it the Washington Post where democracy dies in darkness? That's not biased. So all these places, the LA Times, no bias in any of these places.
Bias, I just said New York Post, but they're biased to the right. And like I said, talk radio, which was very popular, and I think it's still popular, leans more to the right and everything.
Yeah, and people, the libs on Twitter are pissed at the New York Times because they see all sorts of evidence that it leans right, at least in its op-ed department.
Look, let me say this. If libs believe that the New York Times is too far to the right, that shows you how far to the left of America has gone. Rick, you often say to me that the Pew study says that Republicans have moved 4 times to the right. I don't think Republicans have moved 4 times to the right. What I think has happened is that Democrats have gone so far left that what used to be moderate left positions is now considered to be hard right positions. Do you believe? Let me ask you a question. When you look at JFK and you have a look at the policies and things that he stood for, do you think that he would be a Democrat today?
I don't know. I'm not informed enough to, but I mean, yeah, I do think he would be. I mean, without knowing a lot, I do think he would be.
Yeah. But right now it's time to wrap up, and we'll be back tomorrow. We might even be on the same link because apparently they're trying something new on StreamYard, but we're going to see right now because apparently they said that these are continuous links, meaning we can use them again. But we're about to find out because I'm about to end this show and see if this experiment works or not. But right now it's time to get on out of here. Yeah.